Yeah, so this is a fair use from the Act of 1976. Disclaimer, Section 107, under critical and teaching and scholarship and educational purposes, research. I am not making any money off this. This is fair use, fair use. Yeah, so what is this? Reuters, and it says Iran reopens Strait of Hormuz, but says U.S. must end naval blockade. So with all that, I want to give all praises, all honor, and all glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha HaKodash, Kahaloyim Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai. Right? Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and do well, to the elder apostles, bishops in Connecticut, the bishops, the preachers, the teachers, the evangelists, and the four winds preaching in truth and sincerity, risking your lives more now than ever, the hopeful elect, Shalom, to the Israelite foreigners who phenotype may look like another nation, but bloodline goes back to Israel through your father and have come back to the fold. Shalom to your sisters, your Chwatlium, who listen and learn under your husband, which is your spiritual leader, with meekness and with silence. This your brother Ram Yahawada with the lesson. Yeah, so it says summary. I says Iran says strait will close again if U.S. blockade continues. Trump calls straits opening a brilliant day. Iran officials says different between the two sides remain. Right, so they say, hey, look, there's still a beef between us. Right, we you know what I mean. And it says shipping companies react cautiously. Timing of talks remain uncertain. So this thing can go back the way it was. So this is just a way that they could ease up things for a little bit, allow some ships to go out, ease the stress of what's on some of these nations. So that way they can, because they got other stuff they got to worry about, right? Because you got the UFOs. You have what is it? You got the whole thing with the small hats, because everything is people are starting to wake up to them. So now they have these so many states in America are making it illegal for you to speak anything against the small hats. So basically, this is one of those things where they got a lot to deal with, and they're throwing, like the common thing as we said, they're throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. Oh yeah, not to mention you got the different diseases or whatever they want to call it. You got the plagues, things that they're trying to push to implement to put the fear on the people, right? You got the different planes or plane companies basically going out of business. So it's a lot going on in Esau's world, and he's used to being ahead of everything, but everything is going so fast. And then wait till the Lord really starts speeding up things. It's going to go so fast that he's not going to be even ahead of everything that's going on, right? And then I believe this is, because this is all smoke and mirrors, man. Most of this is, they all work for the international bankers. They all for the Novus Ordo Seclorum, right? They all for that. Now, how they get there, now that's where the differences is, because and that's what they're saying. There's still a difference between the two sides, yeah, and that's just how they want to bring in the new world, the Novus Ordo Seclorum, right? That new control out of chaos, right? It's Dubai, Washington, Iran temporarily open Strait of Hormuz on Friday, which is today, following the ceasefire agreement in Lebanon, rising mention, miss, op, how you say it? It's like you optimism. There you go. So like I didn't need that. No. Optimism about peace talks, but Tehran warns it if it could close the cruel waterways again, the waterways again, if the recent U.S. Navy blockade of Iran's ports continue. Let me just hit that just to make sure I said it. Crucial, yes, like a crucial. The crucial waterways again, if the recent U.S. naval blockade of Iran ports continue. Yeah, Foreign Minister Abbas I don't know how to say Arachi announced on social media that the strait, a slender choke point in global energy trade, was open for all commercial vessels for the remainder of for the remainder or a reminder of the U.S. broken 10-day trice 10 days broken 10 days truce that was agreed on Thursday between Israel and Lebanon, right, which was invaded by Israel after the Iran ally Hezbollah militant group joined the fight. So it says U.S. President Donald Trump, who with Israel launched the war on Iran on February 28th, that killed thousands of people and led to the strait's de facto closure, right? Told supporters at a rally in Arizona that the Arquais, I just said the dude's name too, that's crazy. It's Arquais? Arachis, that's how it's Arachis, but it's not Arquachis. Yeah, something like that. Announcement markets a great, brilliant day for the world. Oh, so that must have been today. He was here in Arizona today. Okay. I didn't even know that. Okay. But yeah. So this article is from Patch. It's Patch. You can go to patch.com. And it says Old Town, Alexander, Virginia, says health and fitness. Says Virginia, a hot spot for this disease as ticks emerge for 2026. It says tick season is starting in Virginia, and along with it comes the potential for serious and debilitating diseases. illnesses, like debilitating illnesses. So this season is starting in Virginia. Tick season is starting in Virginia. Along with it comes potential serious debilitating illnesses such as alpha gall syndrome, a tick-borne red meat allergy spread by the aggressive long star tick. So, you know, this is one of their things. You know, they got to look for that, for the next boogeyman, so to speak. You know. So yeah, right here, this is the CDC telling you, this is a while back ago, telling you geographic distribution of suspected alpha gall syndrome, right? That's what they were just talking about. The alpha gall syndrome cases in the United States, January 2027 to December 2022, right? And they're saying that these cases have been rising or something. 2022, they're a total, by December 31st, 2022, a total of 357,119 people were affected by this. This was, as of that time, Yeah, so this is a WBAL TV 11. Look like NBC. This is a weekly tick bites. Related ER visits rise across the U.S. CDC says Maryland doctors see increase too. I was trying to get it to see, but it don't want to. I hate when they do that thing, and it's just in the way, and then you're not doing anything for the thing. It says a Baltimore weekly emergency room visits for tick bites are at their highest level in nearly a decade, according to data from the Center of Disease Control and Prevention. Right, so they're credible, right? Right. We are definitely seeing a uptick, right? No point intended, right? Uptick in tick bites, right? Dr. Jonathan Thurman says presidents of extreme care, urgent care, right? Sound like he just made everything up. You know what I'm saying? Everything's a soap opera with Esau, bro. Man, it says nationwide ER visits for tick bites have reached their highest levels since 2017. Right? You gotta go back to that, back to 2017. Right? With the most recent CDC data showing 71 tick-related ER visits per 100,000 persons compared to 30 per 100,000 the same period last year, right? Like I said, they gotta look for their new boogeyman. So that's one of the least of their things, of the homo straits and all these other different things, right? It says U.S. President Donald Trump addresses a Turning Point USA event entitled "Build the Red Wall" at Dream City at Dream City Church, right? Because you have to be asleep to dream, man. To dream, because they ultimately just trying to keep you people asleep. You know, why the Epstein files is out, why this and that. They got a lot they got to deal with, right? They got the Strait of Hormuz. They got a lot of people. People are getting restless. People are not dealing with this whole you know, they're not falling for the tiny tops, the whole anti-Semitism anymore. Nobody's falling for that, man. People will recognize you're not the people, right? So it says in Phoenix, Arizona, on April 17th, 2026, right? I guess there's a photo of him there, right? But it says by Reuters, April 18th, 2026, right? It's supposed to be probably like 5 a.m. Over there. They're saying that the U.S. President Donald Trump said on Friday that his administration reviewed UFO release material, unveils a number of interesting documents, adding that in initial tranche of records is expected to be released soon. Oh, okay. We found many very interesting documents, I must say, and the first release will be very, very soon, so you can go out and see if the phenomenon is correct. Trump told a group of supporters at an event hosted by conservative groups, Turning Point. Yeah. It says in February, Trump directed U.S. agencies to begin releasing government files on UFO unidentified aerial phenomenons, right? And possible extraterrestrial life. Right? Considering, right? Citing a strong public interest in the issue. Well, yeah. Well, Phoenix we have a lot of chariots seen in Phoenix, right? So it's not like, you know, that's not a real thing in Phoenix, right? If anybody know anything about the Phoenix Lights, but it's been happening for years in Phoenix, but especially since the Men of the Lord has been out, right? Preaching downtown Phoenix, man. You can't stop seeing the chariots, man, because the true doctrine, right, starting with the Men of Great Millstone, is out there, man. So Trump ordered the review after accusing former President Barack Obama of improperly sharing classified information when Obama said aliens weren't real in a podcast interview. Well, it's called, you just said it, classified. It's called classified. So he didn't have to say that, right? Right? You don't have, it just popped him up. That's crazy. Yeah, so of course one of the brothers right here, he posted this 13 hours ago. right? Showing you, right? Spirit Airlines could shut down and liquidate as soon as this week due to fuel prices going up, right? Well, the Strait of Hormuz is open now, but hey, maybe that might be still too late. It might be still too late, and they'll still have to liquidate, right? Because what? The spirit ain't right here, right? The spirit ain't right. But that's the spirit of the Lord. That's the spirit that the Lord wanted to be in, right? You know.
And because I know what you're thinking. I know what you're probably thinking right now. You're thinking, oh, sure, Rick Sanchez, of course. What you're probably talking about is one of those obscure state laws, like the one they have in Alaska that says if you accidentally kill a moose, you have to eat it. That's actually a law in Alaska, by the way. There's one in Georgia that says it's illegal to sleep on a boat for more than 30 days. True. No, we're not talking about an obscure law. What we're talking about is an Israeli loyalty oath law that is becoming so common in the United States, it's now pervasive. Take a look at the map. You see the red states? See all of those red states? 26 states have enacted this loyalty oath legislation. And let me show you the other one, the navy blue ones, the blue ones you see there. That's where this law is now pending. So 26 acted on, passed, 13 pending, only 11 states, the light blue ones you see there, the baby blue or the light blue, those are the ones where you can boycott Israel and, criticize Israel if you want. Again, look, it bears repeating. There is no such law keeping you from denouncing or boycotting the United States of America, or even advocating causes that harm the U.S. economically. But there are laws from doing that against Israel.
Folks, I have a red alert here for you. 70% of the farmers in the United States of America say that fertilizer is so expensive right now that they will not be able to buy all of the fertilizer that they need to grow American food. The war in multiple countries has driven fertilizer prices high. This crisis didn't start with the Iranian war. Farmers have been getting squeezed since the Ukrainian-Russian conflict. The Iranian war is making things worse, and it's drawing attention to it, but it's not the whole problem. The problem is that a handful of corporations still control the supply, and they push prices higher with very little international resistance. If the farmers say that they can't grow our food and they're not going to be able to bring to the table what Americans need and our feedstock needs for our animals, we're going to find ourselves here in the USA between a rock and a hard place. Russia and China have significantly accelerated their efforts to de-dollarize the entire world, with over 99% of bilateral trade settlements between these countries now being conducted in rubles and yuan. Russian officials have confirmed that they have nearly eliminated the need for the dollar and the euro for all transactions between Russia, China, and their associates. They have focused instead on national currencies in a complete bypass of Western sanctions and the greater Western financial infrastructure. Reports are coming in that biological material has been smuggled into the United States from China under false labeling. They put a little bit of this info out early on in the story, and then it went away. According to investigators, a Chinese research official affiliated with Indiana University, USA, who is also reportedly a member of the Chinese Communist Party, was jailed after the discovery. Authorities say that the individual has been living in the Midwest for approximately 3 years, connected to Chinese-linked biological laboratories that have been found across our country. Now, here's where things get tricky. Court documents revealed that a package was shipped from China to the researcher's apartment. Deceptively, this package was labeled as women's underwear or intimate gear. Now, they've done this in the hopes that our borders and customs would not go through this. The shipment did draw some scrutiny from federal authorities due to its origin from a Chinese scientific organization. When they inspected it, the FBI determined the contents were not any sort of intimate apparel. It was instead DNA samples of biological material. One of those that they have disclosed is E. coli, a dangerous bacteria that causes severe illness. Laboratory settings have allowed them to take E. coli and alter it. Federal officials are emphasizing that this is part of a broader problem. The FBI has warned that the importation of genetically modified materials into the USA poses a direct threat to public health and national stability. In a separate but related case, a Chinese student in Michigan already pled guilty to smuggling toxic fungus into the country. That pathogen, according to officials, had the potential to devastate agricultural systems and cause immediate human health effects. These health effects include liver damage and reproductive harm in both livestock and human beings. These researchers have been transferred through immigrations facing federal charges. In other news, Russia and Ukraine, we know, have been at war for years. High-level meetings between these top officials.
So this is Isaiah chapter 47, verse 13. Says, "Thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels," right? So really, all this thing is going on. It's just the counsel of the elite, right? Because Trump ain't nothing but a puppet. Most of these prime ministers and presidents, they're all puppets. They have to do what the elite tell them to do, whether it's Putin or what's the president in China? Forgot his name. What's the president in China? All of them. They all have to follow suit based on what the elite have to say. So, they're worried in the multitude of the council. This whole like I said, they're trying to bring in the next boogeyman, the next biological thing that's gonna so-called make people sick. See, and it's all it's all by design, basically. Let's just say it that way. Because even them catching those Chinese guys, it's because they allowed it to happen. You know what I mean? It's all propaganda. It's so it's out there, right? So now it's in the ears of people. Oh my God, there's this fungus, and there's this other thing, and it attacks. You got the tick bites, and it attacks you, and it shuts down the function of your body. Oh no, right? So you got things from that aspect, right? Then you got the financial crunch of the power, right? Airlines going out of business, about to have to liquidate their airlines. Businesses went out of business earlier this year. A lot of them, big ones, right? Party City. That was a big, what you call them? Which the party is over, right? What Prince say? Party over. Oops, out of time. Hey, that's where you're at. Party City closed. You had big corporations that closed down, right? But they're gonna just leave it to where it's just those big box stores, like Walmart and what's another big one? Walmart, Kroger's, something like that. And you only have two choices. But this is all about the counsel of the wicked, man. But at the same time, you have the chariots, so they're worried at that, and this is all part of their plan. Because matter of fact, that de-dollarization, it's part of the plan to collapse the dollar. Because pretty much all these countries are deeply interwoven with the American dollar, and if you can get somehow that the dollar, because of how it's interwoven with all these countries and all these things, the dollar is actually strong. So in order way to disrupt it, you have to come up with this de-dollarization. They have to do a crazy amount of spending, which that's what Trump wants. He wants another 100 and something billion or whatever it is to continue the war. So you're doing a bunch of extra spending that you didn't need to do, technically. And then of course the de-dollarization, now they could bring in the MOTB, right? And to prove that this is what they so-called declared a ceasefire, and Iran opened up the straits. But today, this right here, this is Al Jazeera, and it says live update. This came in, like it says, 5 minutes ago, a couple mile away. This one, they said this is right here, 19 hours ago it was written. But on my thing, when I tapped into it, it said 5 minutes, so they just barely put it up on that thing. But yeah, so it says April 8th, 18th, 2026, right? So 19 hours ago. So they just so-called closed it or opened it. But since Iran says Hormuz closed until U.S. blockade lifts, warns vessels, right? Iranian Revolutionary Guard says due to U.S. ceasefire violations, the Strait of Hormuz will remain closed. And they're violating it for a reason. You know what I mean? Right? Because you never let a good crisis go to waste. Right? They say it's a power crisis. It's an energy crisis. You think they're gonna let that go? They're not leaving. Right? They're not gonna leave. They're not gonna let a good crisis go to waste. Right? So they're gonna force you to keep fighting. Right? It also said approaching vessels would be treated as cooperating with the enemy. U.S. President Donald Trump says the naval blockade will remain, right, in full force, right, of course, until our transactions with Iran is 100% complete. And accused Iran of blackmailing the U.S., right? So they're not going to let a good crisis go to waste. Slovakia. They're not going to let a good crisis go to waste, first and foremost, right? Yeah, so this is also Al Jazeera News. It says the business and economic, right? Because that's what it's all about. Why would they leave the blockade, right? And they're going to say this is Iran wars, big business is big win is a big winner. Was it Wall Street, weapons, right? Frames. Is it AI and green energy, right? Because that's what they're trying to bring in. So if you make a crisis about the energy market in itself, what is it going to bring in? It's going to bring in them trying to say there's too much carbon emission. They're going to bring in this green energy. Everything's going to be electric and this and that. Electric cars, electric stoves, electric everything, so they can make you pay for everything that you do. You know, because if you strike a fire and you cook your food, you don't have to pay for that. You know what I mean? But that's not how they want it to be. That's why homelessness is illegal now. You know? This is global economic outlook for 2026. This is their outlook for 2026. Looks grim if Iran war continues. No, it ain't. It's looking good if the Iran wars continue. That's what they're telling you. But it's actually good for them for it to continue. But some industries are booming. Right. So wait a minute. Is it bad or is it good if some industries are booming? Like war, building weapons, right? Make a lot of money building weapons, right? AI, because they're going to use that to control everything. So this war is just really like a testing ground for the AI. Not to mention, I'm going to keep saying it, those people out there in the Middle East are unchecked, right? You have to bring in the MOTB, so you have to have that whole region checked. Put them on the grid, right? Those who want to fight a holy war, come on, we'll give you a holy war. We'll tell you that we're going to fight to bring in the Messiah, which we don't give a damn about the Messiah, but we do give a damn about is putting you in check, right? So they're definitely weary in the multitude of their counsel because they have to do that. But then you still actually do have the men of the Lord out there on the highways prophesying their downfall. You do actually have the chariots popping out. This is why Trump had to mention, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to release some more files on the chariots, on the UFOs, sometime in February. Why? Because everything is going on and they have a lot of things that they have to deal with, right? They have to do a lot of things to put everything in check for the Novus Ordo Seclorum. So they are weary. Thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. So they have councils here doing this and that. They're setting up wars, this and that. They're setting up everything. Everything is all intentional, man. Right? Right? Even the dollarization. Oh my God, there's a dollarization. And of course, the through the truth coming out, the small hatters, right, got something to say. They got to try to block you, and that's the beginning of freedom of speech, right? Starting with them, because if you can get them, in which they're a foreign entity, in your own country where you're supposed to be free. I was born in the USA, right? When you're supposed to be free, you should be able to say, especially if you can say whatever you want to say about your own country, let alone some other people from some other place. Why? Because they're that ruling class, that banking class, that ones who actually funds and rules everything. As far as what's going on this side of the world, right? Really, the whole world, right? As far as banking, funds, and whatever, But America is Israel's little BIBI, So, and that's just the cold hard facts. So they're worrying the multitude of the council. Let now your astrologers, right? Because they got to worry about the chariots. They're looking at the stars, and they're looking at the signs. They looking at these things. And somehow these they said meteorites fell down in Ohio, and it boomed and it hit the ground, and it shook like 5 or 6 states. Particles came down in California and other places. So a lot of things is actually happening, right? And like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if that wasn't a nuke. Just not. It just didn't have the explosive part to it, or some type of if it ain't a nuke, it would be like a because they have the hypersonic ballistic missiles, right? I wouldn't be surprised if it just wasn't some type of hypersonic ballistic missiles without the explosion to it, because Russia did do that. They did that to Iran. They shot one. It just didn't have the nukes in it. He just shot the front part, the cylinder, boom. But it still was freaking scary, right? To say the least, when it hit. So how much more once those that nuclear with those atoms are in there, and them atoms get to combusting, right? It's going to be 1,000 times hotter than the sun. So you got to be weary in the multitude of your counsel. Yeah, now let your astrologers and your stargazers, the monthly prognosticators, stand up. So now you got to figure, hey, give us a solution. Give us something, right? I mean, the chariots are coming out. We gotta. What are we gonna do, right? Scripture says the curse that goeth through the whole earth. It's a curse to you. And the chariots are holding back, going back and forth, holding back the nuclear. But each time, especially them being in the Middle East, it's going to be a little more that the chariots are gonna kick back. They're not gonna hold back that nuclear fire. Each day that they're there, which that's what Trump don't understand. Yeah, it's big business. As far as a lot of those other companies, yeah, you don't want to let a crisis go to waste, and you don't want to leave those people unchecked. You want to put them on the grid so they all can get microchipped. But the more you do that, the what's it called? The more slack the angels put on the entire nuclear war, until it's going to be all out. All countries, Russia, China, everybody's going to be there, and you ain't going to be able to prevent World War III, which you can't do it anyway. But just saying, right? It says the monthly prognosticators stand up and save. See, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to save yourself, but it's impossible. And save thee from the things that shall come upon the earth, which is World War III, ultimately, right? And the snatching of the taking of your kingdom, your rulership, right? You're no longer going to be the unjust steward. You're not going to be a steward at all. You are unjust. I guess I can't take the unjust from you, but you will not be a steward ever again, right? Behold, which means to look, they shall be as stubble. See, you're going down, right? And that's what you're trying to prevent. That's what this Novus Ordo Seclorum is all about. That's why you have to be in that Middle East, because that's a lot of land with a lot of people who would not be microchipped. So you got to find a way to get them on the grid, right? And then it's what did the dude call it? The what's his name? Abraham Finkelstein. He said a twofer. That's what you're getting, a twofer. right? A two for one, right? Being you putting them on the grid, but also you get to say, hey, we are the people of the book, because now we own from Israel, from the Red Sea to the Euphrates, right? That's like a plus for you, right? So to speak. Fire shall burn them; they shall not dwell. No, they shall not deliver themselves like you from the power of the flame, right? See, ultimately, once those nuclear carbines, atoms are in that nuke, it's nothing going to stop you from your power to be taken, right? From the power of the flame, right? There shall not be a coal to warm at, nor fire to be set before, right? Well, what was it? Trump was talking about the coal industry is a pretty big industry here in America. The Lord said, ain't going to be a coal here for you to fire to warm yourself at, right? The Lord's taking away everything, right? Yeah, to warm itself, neither fire to sit before it, right? And it says, thus shall they be unto thee with whom thou hast labored. So thus shall they be unto thee with whom thou hast labored, even thy merchants from thy youth. They shall wonder every one to his quarter, right? Yeah. So all these people you done business with, China, Russia, right? Japan, all these people, they're gonna they're gonna go do their own thing. They're gonna come against you, right? Them that were they were confederate with you, right? Shall bring thee even to the border. Those that were at peace with you shall bring you even to the border, right? And even though China's supposed to have this thing, but China's always been really close with you, especially as far as merchandise, right? You know, but they're all gonna leave off from dealing with you. None shall save thee, right? So there ain't gonna be no way. Let me get a loan or take some of this debt, right? Because China used to take a lot of your debt, but I guess China's wised up and said that they don't want any more American debt. Then Japan takes most of American debt now, but I'm pretty sure they're trying to dump the debt. And then I believe Russia had a good portion of American debt at one particular time. So all these places that you did, they're trying to dump the debt that they have accumulated from you, right? Yeah. So this is Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 6. I'm gonna just work this backwards, so to speak, just to kind of so we can get the gist of it. Because right there, as you can see, it says thick clay. I'm gonna go down to thick clay, and work this backwards, so to speak.
Strong's H 5671 avteet.
So that word clay, it's aptit or abatyat, right? Meaning weight of a pledge, right? Which goes into it being like a pawn shop. See, pawn goods. You change your thing into a pawn good. Basically, you're still in debt. You change your good into the pawn shop. They give you money, but in order for you to get your good back, especially if you want it back, right? You have to pay that and some to get it back, which basically puts you behind the curveball, so to speak, most of the time, right? So, and then but it says heavy debt. So basically, it's just debt. Abatyat meaning debt. Let's go back out. Let's work this thing backwards. So, and it says Habakkuk 2 and 6, shall not all these take up a parable against him, right? Which is people are calling Trump folded taco, right? He folds when it comes to certain things. They're saying he's weak as far as this war. They have these different things, even against the rich. The common old phrase: the rich get richer, the poor get poor, and they don't give a damn. and it's a truth statement. They don't give a damn. People are going to be they're going to say FAI, what is it, ICE. They're going to be saying, they're going to be doing all sorts of taunting, taking up a parable and a taunting proverb, which is like a song, a chant against them, you know, right? Against him, right? Him is mean the elites, Esau, Edom, right? The top one, Amalek, right? But all these people are all part of this, you know, this thing, you know, whatever leader that's out there, they're all part of it. You know, the Lord's going to put something in their mind that make them actually fight against what's going on, right? And say, woe, right, which means judgment, to him that increase of that which is not his, right? And basically that's what they've been doing. That was the blessing of Esau, right? To take the world, right, and the fatness of the earth and the dew of heaven by the sword, right? And to take what don't belong to him, right? How long? And he layeth himself with thick clay. So we know what thick clay means. What? A batyat, which is debt. Yeah, so this is Habakkuk 2:6 NLT. It says, but soon they're captives. See, and that's what you are. Every citizen on the earth are just captives of basically of this system, right? Which they're trying to push that novus ordo seclorum, right? To completely make you a perpetual slave, right? You know? And but yeah, you are. Everybody has taxes. You have this. You have that. These people basically run it. And they own everything. If you go this way, they own it. If you I'll try this business. Well, they own that business too. So they've cornered the market, which they want to do it. They want to lock it down more to where they stamped you, right? Right. They got a real time stamp, and when you go this place, they know exactly where you are. Like you said, instantaneously. Right? A real time. Knowing when you go here and you do this and you do that, what you could buy, what you could sell, what you unless you have what? That mark, the Karama, the Karax, the Grapho. Right? That's what they're talking about. The captives will taunt them. They will mock them, saying, what sorrows waits you, thieves, right? Yeah. Because ultimately the Lord is going to judge them eventually, but right now they're winning like a moth. Hey, you've seen it. It just said, hey, who's the big winners in this Iran war, man? The Wall Street, the people who create weapons, AI. Now they're going to go into this greenhouse effect. Everybody needs to monitor their carbon footprint, and they're going to make money off of that, right? You know what I mean? And it's a way of thieving, right? It says now you will get what you deserve, right? Because yeah, Yahweh Shai is coming soon. You become rich by extorting, extortion, and that's what they've been doing. They just extorting the entire world, and they're billion, trillion, but they want more. Now they want your soul. It ain't enough, right? Revelations 18 said the souls and the souls of men. It ain't enough, man. That they're still enslaving people, right? We learned that when Trump first got in office, there was a slave ship that got caught, and it had a bunch of jakes on it. But then Vocab and all these people want to tell you that the Deuteronomy 28 and 68 didn't exist. Well, it's still occurring to this day, right? You know, it says, but how much longer can this go on? Hey, not much longer, right? Because the way they're doing it is they're working against themselves. They're imploding on themselves, right? But like I said, the angels, the more and more they get closer to this, the angels are gonna slack and let go, and next you know, World War III is gonna happen, right? It's gonna be a full scale World War III. They're already set up to be in that land, so everything is there, right? Daniel chapter 2, verse 20 says, Daniel 2:20, Daniel answered and said, blessed be the name of the Most High Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rakakodash, forever and ever. For wisdom and might are his, right? Starting with the Father Then unto the Son, which they're not the same person. They're two different entities, right? Two different beings altogether, right? The Father and the Son is not the same person, right? And he changeth the times and seasons, right? The Lord set it up from the beginning of the earth, right? Right? Even when it set up, the stars, the sun, the moon, and how how it goes down, right? Even the reason why you have to have a leap year, right? Because remember when was it Moses? I believe it's Moses. He prayed that the sun stayed up for longer, so they could fight, so they could see, so they could fight, and that's why you have you have to have a leap year. The Lord changes the times, right? Even though Esau tries to do it, but the real changer of times and seasons is the Most High through His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, right? He removed his kings, right? You had the Egyptian king or whatever, Pharaoh, whatever you want to call him. Then you had the Babylonian king. Then you had the Medo-Persian Empire. You had the Persian. Then you had the Medes that were kings. Then you had the Greeks, and of course you had the Roman Empire. And now you got the revise of the Roman Empire, and you have their kings. But the Lord is removing them, right? And the Lord's going to set up one that is profitable, like the scriptures tell you, right? But so that means that you're being removed out of power, right? And set up kings. He giveth wisdom to the wise, and knowledge to them that knoweth. Understanding, the true understanding is the Bible. So he's going to give this kingdom to his son Yahweh Shai and King David, the 144,000, and the rest of Israel, right? That's who this world belongs to. Yeah. So this is Daniel chapter 2, verse 37. Thou, O king, art a king of kings, which was talking about Nebuchadnezzar at that time, right? For the power of the Most High Yahweh of heaven, right, have given thee thee a kingdom, power and strength and glory, right? He had his chance to rule, right? Which the Lord is given was basically give all you heathens a chance to rule, and he basically recorded it. It says, wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of heaven have he given unto thy hand, and have made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold, right? Speaking of the first beast system to rule, as he's speaking about this the statue that he had a dream of, right? And so he's in this statue he had a dream of. He's the gold. He's the head. It was gold, which is the head. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, right? So there's another kingdom, which is the Medo-Persian Empire, right, which is inferior to his kingdom, but they took over, overall. And the third kingdom, right, because they didn't even really get into, because it's really not that important. We're going to just get to the point, because we're talking about the end of the world, where you're at, right? Where we're trying to get to the point of the end of the world. The third kingdom is when the Edomites started ruling, right? Third kingdom being the Greek Empire, right? Right, through Alexander the creep, the great, right? The freak, yeah, the Edomite, right? Another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over the earth, right? And it wasn't the whole entire earth, but it had a significant part of the world that it ruled over. And it says, what? A fourth kingdom, right, which would be the Romans, shall be strong as iron, right? It's the Roman Empire. For as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things. Yeah, because the Roman Empire was very strong and vast, and their empire spread past every other empire previous to them. It was larger than the Babylonian Empire, larger than the Medo-Persian Empire, right? Larger than the Greek Empire, right? And it said what subdueth all things, and it says subdueth all things as iron that breaketh all these, shall it be broken. All these shall it be broken in pieces and bruised, right? See, because ultimately, what it's going to have, what, the deadly wound, right? But it's going to get healed and it's going to return, right? It's going to be bruised. Whereas thus saw its defeat, right? See, now it's going to be what, that deadly wound that was healed. I mean, the deadly wound is going to be healed. It's going to return. And then this is the what, the the second part of Rome, which we like to say the second leg, but really when you go into this, it's not going into it's just going into the lower part of the legs, right? And it says but it's a second portion, right? And it says, and as thou sawest the feet and the toes, right? Because this is the Rome coming back after the bruise, right? After being broken in pieces and bruised, right? It returns, but when it returns, saw its the feet and the toes, part of what? Of potter's clay, right? When we read what clay was in Habakkuk, which is debt, a batyat, a debt, and a part of iron, right? Dealing with military power, not to mention financial strength, right? Yeah, there's certain places that got financial strength, right? Like America is it has the clay as far as debt, but it also has strength as far as military, right? But then you got things like what, Great Britain, which is financially strong, right? Right. So you got, I believe it's, well, I think it's kind of switched around a little bit now, but I know Britain is still financially strong, right? And it says the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of strength of iron, right? So you have, like I said, both military might and both financial strength. They're gonna have, because I believe, what is it? A lot of it's changed, because I know Germany used to have financial strength, but because of the war in Ukraine, it exhausted a lot of the money, and now they're taking a blow with this this power crisis, right? The oil and whatever that's going on with Iran now. So now they don't have the strength that they used to, or at least financial strength that they used to have, right? But then you got, was it because you got NATO, you got Turkey. Turkey has a strong military, right? As far as NATO, you got I think France has a nuclear missile, right? As far as that, I have to look up more of those places that's doing financially well, because it used to be different. It used to be like France and Germany, and it might be even Luxembourg, right? It's financially got that strength, right? Denmark, things like that. They have the financial strength, but then it's starting to break apart. You had the Brexit, which a lot of those other countries that were financially strong broke apart, which basically goes into that being divided, right? Because they broke apart. It's called the Brexit, right? So they were financially, they kind of broke off from the EU, but they're still part of NATO, right? They're still NATO nations, but they're no longer EU nations because they broke apart because of the financial. They didn't want to have to fall because of all the other nations were not financially stable. So that's the part of that division, that Brexit, right? But there shall be in it of strength of iron as much as thou sawest the iron mix with miry clay, right? So you got the strong nations, you got these nations that's in debt, right? They're financially strong. You got nations that's, militarily strong, but maybe they're in debt. So it's still that mixture of the clay, right? The debt, abatya, and then the strength, either money being their defense, or the military being their defense. That's like their iron, their strength. But it's basically all this stuff is falling apart. Even though Rome 2.0, it's returned, the bruise or the deadly wound was healed, and it returned. It returned partly strong and then partly broken, right? And it says, and as the toes of the feet were part iron, right? Because now we're in the toes. We're in the part of the toes. Part iron and part of clay, right? Partly strong, which is, like I said, either financially because money is defense, but your military is a defense. That makes you strong. And then you got the clay, abatya, which is debt, which is leaving you vulnerable as far as financial, right? But the only thing that keeps America up is the military, because they're basically going around and then they attack people and then they take their minerals, right? Like they just did to Venezuela. Like America should have been done for, but because they have that great bulk of Venezuelan oil, now they could sell, they could do things, make a little money, do a little shifting, and now you even got something to bargain with as far as trade, or you could say, hey, loan me some money because I'm good for it because I have all this oil. So this is the type of thing that's keeping America up. You know what I mean? But it says, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken, right? And that's where we're at right now. And I'm gonna go ahead and read this one too. It says, and whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, right? And that's going into these Edomites, man. They basically, because they had the sword and conquered, that was their blessing. They mingled themselves with the seed of other men, right? So a lot of these places, though it seemed like you have the Arab Emirates or whatever, it's really an Edomite behind it, right? He's mingled with the people. He looks like some of the people. You got the Chinese. Some of them look like China, but why are a lot of those Chinese? Because the Chinese are meant to be dark people. Why are they so light, so pale in some cases? Because they mingle themselves with the people, right? And then eventually, of course, just in society, white is right. So when you go to these countries, you don't see the dark color people. You don't see the original dark Chinese people. You don't see the original dark people of Russia. You don't see the original dark people of any of these nations. They try to show just the more lighter skin, India and all this other stuff. They try to keep Jacob out of the mix, so to speak, right? But they mingle themselves in with the people and got control of the banking system and certain things, and made a lot of these other countries weak, and now that the dollar is the world reserve currency, the dollar is so interwoven with everything that's going on, right? The dollar is about to collapse, so everything is going to collapse with the dollar. but they shall not cleave one to another, right? Because eventually World War III is going to commence. No matter what they try to do, they're gonna try to push this the MOTB, the Novus Ordo Seclorum, the micro C hip, to real time stamp everybody so they can GPS you wherever you're at. Putting the micro C hip within you, the neural link within your brain, right? And it's not gonna cleave because it has to be destroyed. This kingdom has to be destroyed. And it says, even as iron is not mixed with clay, right? Because you're not gonna. That's what, like I said, it's the reason why they had the Brexit. You're not down with somebody that's going down, because if you're going down and then you're trying to lift them up, it's like trying to save somebody. It's like trying to save somebody who's drowning. They're gonna drown you too, right? Right? Because they're panicking, and they're drowning you too. So you don't need that. And so in that day, these kings shall the power of the Most High Yahweh of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. See, that's the time of World War III. The Lord, Yahweh Shai, is going to intervene when that clay, right, the dead and the strong, those nations, they're going to eventually clash, right? These things, Russia, right? This whole thing with them being part of the, Masons and Illuminati, all that's going to fall apart, right? And so they're going to commit they're going to have to fight in World War III because it's not going to mix, right? And it says, and in that day, in those days, these kings shall the Most High Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai of heaven, set up a kingdom, which is talking about Yahushai's kingdom, which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people. See, so the Lord is going to give it back to the Israelites, starting with Yahushai, King David, the 144,000, right? It says, and it shall be broken in pieces and consumed. All these kingdoms, going into from the very first kingdom, the Babylonian kingdom, right? Nebuchadnezzar, down to the Medo-Persian Empire, to the Greek Empire, the Roman Empire, the revised Roman Empire, the one that had the bruise or the deadly wound that was healed and returned. It has to be destroyed, right? They all have to be dissolved, cleaned up, taken over, right? And it says, it says, and consumed all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. So this is going to be a thing that's going to go on forever, because it's going to be Yahushai's kingdom, right? Yeah. So this is Revelation chapter 20 verse 7, right? Because this is going into that Rome, the one with the deadly wound that was healed, that returned, because we're at the end of the world. We're at the end of your rulership. That ultimately, that's why you're weary in the multitude of your counsel, because we're at the end of your rulership and you're trying to prevent it, right? And the Lord's not going to stop doing what He came to do, to restore the world back to Yahushai, back to its original state, back to it being Eden, right? Idon, paradise, right? Because all the pollution and this and GMO foods and the pestilence and the things and the fighting and the despair, and then ultimately you're giving people the micro C hip, which is trying to cut off the Most High completely from the world which He created. He's not pleased with that. So, but there has to be it has to be all set up so that you says, and when the 1,000 years were expired, because you were in the Caucasus Mountains, the Lord shut you up for 1,000 years, put the dust, the confusion upon you. You were grunting as a ass. You got the mellows and the by the bushes. You ate, and you survived, right, in the caves of the Caucasus Mountains, right? Where you get the word Caucasian from, which means cave dweller, which we know you went back, scrubbed the internet, and changed that. When it literally means cave dweller, right? But we're at your end, so this is the return because you're returning. And when the 1,000 years were expired, Satan just means adversary. You're the adversary against everything that is righteous, starting with the Most High, His people, and then just everything in the world. You're adverse to life, right? You pollute the air. The air is for us to breathe so we can live. You pollute the water. We're supposed to be able to drink the water so we can live. I mean, even the plants need the air, but then you engineer the plants so that the plants only can make a seed only one season, and then the seeds doesn't reproduce. See, you're an enemy, right? That's what Satan means, enemy, right? Shall be loose out of his prison, right, which is the Caucasus Mountains, and shall go out to deceive the nations, right? Which that's what you did in the time that you were Alexander. Then when Rome came into power, people like winners, right? And when you're winning, you're on top. You're doing this and that. Not to mention the victor. They said the victor goes to spoil, but not just the spoils. The victor chooses the history, right? Even though there's so much history that tells otherwise, you convert the history to deceive the people, and then also you take on different names, right? Because you wasn't the original Greeks, you wasn't the original Romans, right? You conquer lands. You're not the original English or the Dutch or the Spanish, right? Or the French. You're not those people, because Jake was ruling at that time, right? So-called Negroes were ruling in those spaces, but you took on those names. And of course, you came to America. You conquered the Native American. Now you're American, right? Well, actually, the land was called something else. Back then, they called it Turtle Island, but you conquered it, called it American, called yourself an American, called them Native Americans, and then so on and so forth. Gave everybody these hidden names. That's why the Lord said, "My hidden ones." You so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians are the Lord's hidden ones, right? They gave you Black, Negro, colored. You know what I mean? Then the last thing is African American, which is totally off. Then what? Of course, Mexican, Native American, which is all false. Dominican, Cuban, Haitian, Panama. What is it? Brazilian. Was it Venezuelan? Those are the things. Those are the names of places. You're Mexico. Well, that's the name of the city. The city is, but you're not a Mexican. You're Issachar. You're not Brazil. You're really you're like either Zebulon or Naphtali, right? Your tribes go back to the children of Israel, right? But these are the things they wanted to blind you, to deceive you, right? Deceive the nations, right? Even the nations, they changed their names. Moab became China, right? Ammon became Japanese, right? Of course, even the Edomites. The Edomites is in Russia. Now you're known as Rashar, meaning chief prince. But you're a bunch of Edomites yourself. So you just took on the names and to hide yourself, because you're a vagabond and a fugitive from justice. But see, the whole thing about that is your justice is coming, right? But that's why you're throwing spaghetti at the wall, and you're weary at the multitude of your counsel, because this is your end, right? And this is proof that this is your end, because you're the second. You're the one that was bruised with the deadly wound that was healed and returned, right? And we're proving that right here. And it says, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four corners of the earth. Well, Rome ruled the very vast part of the earth, but they did not rule all four corners of the earth. When did that happen? The return of Rome, NATO, EU, and America. Now you have America through Spain, through Cristobal Colon, through Spain, forwarding and funding them to come here. Which, not to mention, they were also the Jewish, right? Which had the slave ships and the ships and the things. Because really, that's what Columbus was. Columbus was a Jewish, right? He was a small hatter. He was an Amalek, right? So basically, Amalek was very ahead of all the cargo slave ships, right? And but that's by way of being able to go out and to see the nations which are in the four corners of the earth. Gog, what of was supposed to be Gog of Magog, right? Which is Russia, right? Which that's where that's what it said. That's where it's headed to the third world's war. So you're going to rule into the time of the third world's war, and that's what the Lord is saying here. You rule and you see the earth, and you had the four corners of the earth, but now you're going to come to time of Gog of Magog, right? And gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sands of the sea. So that's basically a World War III. And this is why you're weary in the multitude of counsel. I'm just going to skip down in the same chapter. It's just Revelation chapter 20, verse 10. And it says the devil, right? Because before it said Satan meaning adversary, devil meaning false accuser, or, and when you falsely accusing someone, you are deceiving, right? That's a deception, right? Devil do not mean deceiver. Devil means false accuser. But when you're falsely accusing someone, you are deceiving, right? Or sometimes they'll tell you the truth, but they'll kind of embellish the truth, right? They'll make it larger and bigger than what it is, or they're using the truth to divert what they're doing and who they really are, to skirt the edges. So you always see them as benevolent people. That's why it says that the devil has transformed himself into an angel of light. Now he's the Israeli. Now he's the Christian, right? So now you're looking at these people. Oh, well, the Israelis. They're in the land. They're in the land of Jerusalem, right? These got to be the people, right? And then the Americans, they're Christians. So these must be great God-fearing people. They must be honest people, right? And this is by way of how you would deceive, right? And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone. So in the time of World War III, there's going to be these nuclear missiles. I don't know if you know about them, but there's these nuclear missiles and hypersonic intercontinental ballistic missiles that's going to be shot off. Satan 1, Satan 2, and not to mention the chariots of Yahweh Bashem Shai, which is a curse that goes through the whole earth, right? Which is going to obliterate the place called America. And that's ultimately what this is talking about. And that's going to be the downfall of all these kingdoms. It's taking out America, right? And it says, and cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophets are, right? That's dealing with this system. You have the Roman Vatican Empire being their false prophets. Catholicism, Christianity, Islam, all those things stem from that place, and it permeates this place called America. But not to mention, in America, you could believe in anything. You could be a witchcraft. You could be an atheist. You don't have to believe in anything. So this is a place filled with idols and all sorts of things that the Lord's gonna destroy. All right, right, and it says the beast going into what? This is an extension from England, right? America came from England. It's an extension from England. That beast is going to be destroyed, right? But that's basically, this is talking about America. But eventually, basically, it's going to be a domino effect. You just have to destroy America first, because that's what the Lord is doing. He's beefing them up. He's going to make them, they got all this pride, this great military. They got the thing. They're gonna, the Lord's going to allow them to be puffed up. They're going to have the system pretty much running. A lot of people are going to get micro C-hipped. They're going to feel like they're in a good place. And then what? And shall be tormented day and night forever and ever, right? And that's basically, you're going into slavery, right? And then forever and ever basically just meaning what? We're gonna be telling stories. We're gonna break down the story of once upon a time there was an Edomite, right? The brother of Jacob, and he wanted to kill Jacob, and then his descendants came years later, and his descendants did X, Y, Z, this, that, such, all the things that you have done, right? and then we're going to fly over America with the chariots and show our children that this is what happened, right? This is what happens when a nation does not obey God, right? It's going to be nothing but a place for what the Lord said for desert creatures, right? For doleful creatures, desert creatures. It's going to be like that forever and ever. And I saw a great and white throne, which is Yahushai, right? Because the Lord's Yahweh is giving Yahushai the authority to judge, and he that sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heavens fled from, right? Yeah, because you're gonna go into your bunkers and all these different things, because this is why you're throwing things and you're weary in the multitude of your counsel, right? Flee from. You're gonna run into your bunkers, and says and there was found no place for them, right? You're not gonna be able to microchip anybody and keep your kingdom. There's no place for you, right? Matter of fact, you're gonna get Obadiah 1:18. There's no place for you, right? And I saw the dead, small and great, right, stand before the power, right? Because basically the Most High Yahweh gets the credit, but Yahushai is going to do the judgment, right? Stand before the power of the Most High, which Yahushai is going to do the judgment. And the books were open, and another book was open, which is the book of life, because you got the book of death, you got the book of life, and the dead were judged out of these things, right? Being your society is dead. Your ability to deceive the nations, your ability to rule, right? You're the unjust steward, and you have to be taken out of power. So now you're just trying to figure out a way to keep it, and you're weary at the multitude of counsel. You're trying to figure out how you can do another scamdemic, how you could say that the grid is overpowered, and you have this and you have that, and basically, and another good way is to just starve out the people, right? Right, lock up the Strait of Hormuz, lock up everything, even lock up the Red Sea. Might as well lock it all up, like, 'cause that's what you took, and just starve out the world. That's a good what do they call it? Incentive or deterrent? I don't know if you know. I guess it's an incentive to take the MOTB, to follow with your system. Jump on this digital ID bandwagon and just say, hey, well, we just give ourselves over to this madness. But hey, a lot of people are going to do it. It says in those things which were written in the books according to your works, and your works haven't been good. Your works have been evil, wicked. So you're going to get a great judgment, right? Because it haven't been good. It says, and the sea gave up the dead, right? Because because a lot of people fought wars and traveled through the oceans and the seas, and the sea also represent the people, right? But the sea in itself, a lot of people died. You had slaves died. Hey, it's gonna give up, and people are gonna be some for everlasting life, and those that are Israelites are gonna be for everlasting life, and then of course these other nations, you're gonna have your 1,000 years of slavery, right? And then those who are Edomites, you're gonna have your 1,000 years of slavery, and then after that, you're gonna have Obadiah 1:18, right? And it says, gave up the dead which were in it, and the dead, and hell delivered up the dead, right? The hell meaning the grave, just all, the graves. Hell is just the grave, right? People gonna have to come out of all these people, which goes into reincarnation also, right? Because a lot of the people who was in that time are here now to get their judgment, right? Which were in them, right? Which in the book of the dead, right? The book where you get judged, when you get your judgment, and they were judged, every man according to their works, right? And your works were evil, right? And it says, and the dead and hell were cast into the lake of fire, right? Going into this, like I said, really the lake of fire is going to be America, right? And hell can't be thrown into the lake of fire. It's just talking about the grave, right? So people, this place is going to be a big ass graveyard. The entire United States, right? That's all it's basically saying. But when the missiles hit, it's going to turn this thing into like a lake of fire. Everything's going to be burning. It says it should melt the elements. Like you ever do like welding and you melt that metal and then it puddles. That's basically what all of America is going to be like the bead of that metal that puddles, right? And it says and the death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death, right? Because the Lord destroyed the world with water at one time, but this time it's going to be through this war. It's kinetic war, ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, and also the chariots of the Lord. So you're weary in the multitude of your counsel, and this is something that you cannot stop. It's prophecy, right? America will be the lake of fire, period. Your reign, your rule, no matter what you do, it's going to be destroyed and taken out. So with all that, I'm going to give all praises, all honor, and all glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachahakwadash, right? To give double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and do well, to the elder apostles, bishops in Connecticut, the bishops, the preachers, the teachers, the evangelists, and the four winds, preaching in truth and sincerity, risking your lives more now than ever, the hopeful elect, Shalom, to the Israelite foreigners whose phenotype may look like another nation, but bloodline goes back to Israel through your father and have come back to the fold. Hey, Shalom to you sisters who listen and learn under your husband, which is your spiritual leader, with meekness and with silence. And Abba Kwam Yasharallah.